The HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is fueled by Eukanuba. If you want to get the most of your dog in your training sessions, you need nutrition that holds nothing back. Eukanuba's new premium performance lineup is built with the nutrients dogs need to help unleash their max potential. That starts with providing energy that matches their efforts, supporting optimal nutrient delivery, and supporting post-exercise recovery. Check out the new Eukanuba premium performance lineup and find your dog's fuel at eukanubasportingdogs.com. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. The HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast is powered by Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to sign up for the free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. Gunner kennels are engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind. The G1 kennel has set a new industry standard and put Gunner in a category all its own. They were started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything that they do. Gunner's dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market because man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at gunner.com. All right, welcome back to another episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. This week is episode 205. And as always, we are your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. You can check us out at hpoutdoors.com. You can find us across all the social media platforms out there, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And you can find our show across all of the quality podcast directories out there, Apple, Spotify, whatever your choice is, you can find our show there. Joining me this week, as he always does, co-host Dan Harushka. What's up, man?
We're finally getting some cold fronts.
We got some cold fronts, Jack. We got some
you're
snow here.
You're gonna be home because Virginia area is going to be shut down probably for a couple weeks with the 2 inches
state of emergency. We got like 4 inches of snow, and it's a state of emergency. Schools are closed tomorrow already. So that's kind of how we roll. Not certainly like like you boys out there, but we just don't have the infrastructure to support snow removal. I mean, people were stuck on 95 for like 24 hours because of a snow event. So it's literally dangerous. People can be in bad shape, diabetics and stuff like that in the car having issues. Like it wasn't a disaster. So we certainly laugh at it coming from up where the Great Lakes area where we grew up, but down here it's a big deal.
Yeah, people when they don't grow up driving in it, they don't understand that you can't stop.
there is that part to it. Joining us this week is someone that is probably also no stranger to snow and dealing with that. But we've got our good buddy Brandon Cerecke from Boss Shotshells on the show this week. Brandon, what's up, man?
Hey, we got snow up here too. School shut. The kids are ripping around upstairs, all wound up and excited, think they're going to go skiing on Saturday. They're trying to go tomorrow, but I'm working.
Pesky work gets in the way. Well, we're excited to have you on this week. Certainly want to get caught up on all things Boss, but talk a lot about things that are impacting people that are listening to our show, supply shortages and all that kind of stuff. But maybe we'll start off. Has the shortage in supplies, has it allowed you to get out in the field any more than you have in the past, or is it just made it worse?
No, less. It's these shortages. I mean, it's nutty. I think going back about a year ago, I wrote a letter that we emailed out to all the existing Boss customers, and we put it on our social media platforms. Just kind of laid out like what we were seeing as being told to us by our vendors. And I said last year, like, not to force people into buying early, but 2021 is probably not the year that you wanted to wait to buy your ammunition. And usually for us, like, even though we're only a couple years old, we knew that the selling season started usually in August. So you kind of bounce off the bottom when the season closes in February. So you're not doing anything in February, March, April, May. You're it's like farming, right? You're building all your inventory, you're gathering up all your supplies, and you're getting everything all set so you can kind of get ahead of that curve. Then you'll start seeing June kind of uptick a little bit, then July, August, September, October, November. And then November is usually the peak, and then it kind of it falls just as steadily as it rises. So what we ended up noticing is that buying cycle started way earlier last year. Guys took notice, and it worked out well for a majority of our people. But what we knew happens, like the way our business grows, it's organic, word of mouth, direct to consumer. So one guy turns into, he tells 3 buddies or 4 buddies, which we got the math that kind of supports that. So what happened is, the brand grows exponentially. If one guy tells 3 guys, who tells 3 guys, who tells 3 guys, we were talking to the people that had already been repeat customers of ours. So we were able to support that, no problem. What happened is all those new people that came into the brand, couple that with the fact that we're the only people that were manufacturing non-toxic waterfowl stuff in the season that I know of, right? Every single day we're making it. So we know that about 90% of the people that come to the website don't find what they need. So knowing what we're going to have coming in this year, knowing that the supply shortages are not going to end at all, as far as we can tell, and I think that's going to go through all of 2022. More of the same. Like, let's not wait. We don't want to pressure people into buying or spending money. That's not how we roll at all. What I just try to do is get in front of this and avoid having those nasty calls and people getting all upset with us that we're not making this or not making that. And truth be told, we chatted, kind of the run up to this show before we started recording. We are producing a pile of ammunition every single day. It's just if there's ever a year to say, you know what, let's not try to grow the business and just satisfy our existing customer base, that would be this year. But again, we can't stop it. I mean, the horse is out of the barn, and now you just got to play catch up. So, but we're having fun doing it.
I know, just from being on social media, and you guys put that warning out, and it was still when can I get my boss? And people are like, they warned you 3 months ago, 4 months ago, start doing it. So, I mean, you're getting another warning right now for everyone listening, when your season, when you can get it.
I hate being that guy to say that, but I mean, it's true. I mean, it's just the way it is. First it was powder. And then it went into hull shortages. And that was driven by polymer shortages about the middle of last year when gasoline started shooting up. That was a global shortage or whatever of oil, and oil is turned into plastic, and the plastic makes the case and the wad or for the shotgun hull. And then Italy started running tight on the metal that they stamped to make the brass for the base of the shell. So everyone knows that we have that taller brass on the shell. Italy told us, they're hey, what we have to do is we're going to make these shorter for the time being until we can work through our shortage. So there's going to be a run of hulls. We just got them that are actually nickel plated, 16 millimeter, which is standard brass on the shell. It still has our head stamp on it, but it's unprecedented times. The supply chain globally is so messed up that who knows when it's going to end. Europe kind of started this whole COVID thing with Omicron and then Delta prior to that, way before we did here in the States. So they went through, and again, being more social, government locks those guys down, drop of a hat. So there's stuff going on over there in Europe that we don't even really see, watching our normal news, that has disrupted the supply chain over there. Same thing, getting our metal out of Asia. There's some that comes out of China. There's some that comes out of Korea. And just with the way that our business is scaled, we have outstripped our Korean bismuth producers' ability to supply us. So we hired, obviously with our CEO, one of his first things is to control the supply chain for metal. So he's worked with 3 different vendors, getting long-term structured contracts set up that we can guarantee a flow of metal coming in. Price increases. I mean, you name it. Everything's been thrown at everybody in the country, but from the ammunition side around the world, it's impacted everybody quite significantly. So,
I find it interesting because it seems like, every time there's a mass shooting or like an election that goes a certain way, or anytime that people fear the worst could happen when it comes to firearms and ammunition, there's like a big run on it. Right.
Right.
And I was just trying to, because there was periods of time where you couldn't find 22 long rifle, and all that kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
I was trying to think like, and I asked the question to you, like, has it ever been like, and I get ever relatively, but like, has it ever been this tough, like to get the material that's needed? Like, because before it seems like the shortages were just based on demand, but now it seems like the shortages are certainly, the demand is still there, but then there's this huge supply issue that's really kind of like cutting it off before you can even get going.
There's been a whole bunch of things that have like caused this issue. One, the election in 2020, but prior to that was COVID and some of these supply chain issues. But when COVID first hit, this would have been in like February or March of 2020, when it kind of, our state locked down. We had people coming from Chicago, because we're an hour and a half away, that came into our shop and they were trying to buy guns. And we're like, we don't sell guns, we sell shotgun shells. And they're like, what about the guns right there? My personal guns that were hanging on the wall. They wanted to buy those. I'm like, have you ever shot a gun? They're like, no, but we need them. So there was something like 1 million new first-time gun owners in 2020. All right, so let's just do the math real quick. You buy a pistol. Let's just say the new gun owner is going to go buy a handgun, which first-time gun owners usually do, I think, in like this economic and political climate. So if 6 million people go buy a gun and they buy 2 boxes of shells when they buy that gun, that's 600 million rounds. Okay. That's not something you can just wiggle your nose and like, here's 600 million 9mm. So what happened is your existing gun buyers ran to the store and bought out all of the inventory. Okay. The inventory that is sitting at the big manufacturers got replenished and then wiped out again. Now we've got 600 million new rounds that we have to make for these first-time gun owners that are going to need more. So what's happened, in my opinion, is all of the inventory has been wiped out. People are still buying like crazy because they think something's going to happen with the Second Amendment, even though now we're a year into Biden's deal. I think we can all agree that nothing's going to happen with the Second Amendment. And inventories are like wiped out. So in order to get the country back healthy again, the large OEMs have to be able to produce enough ammunition to, one, satisfy the existing demand in the market, and two, replenish the shelf, warehouse or shelf inventory at the retailers. So that's going to take at least this year, even if all the big boys get everything they need. That's going to take at least a year for them to get healthy again. So that's why I'm saying we're not going to see anything even close to leveling out until next year this time, maybe. Okay, so then the other thing that happened is Lake City Ammunition, which is the ammunition plant, one of the ammunition plants for the federal government, for the military, Lake City, is owned by the federal government, but is operated under contract by one of 2 companies, Federal and Winchester. And just this last year, at the end of the year, they ended up trading hands. The contract went from one company to the other. So what happened was the company that held the contract started bleeding their inventories down, and the incoming company needed to ramp production up. So all of our powder that we were able to get through our distributor under normal circumstances and even the big boys, they weren't able to get what they needed because they were, the powder plant is owned, there's 2 of them. One is New River Energetics, which is owned by Rocketdyne. The other one is St. Mark's, which is owned by General Dynamics. Both are government contractors. Their number one customer is the federal government. So when they say we need 223, we need 556, all that other stuff, boom, they got to make it. So that kind of put a lot of constraints on the John Q. Public supply side of ammunition. Prior to that, I'm going back pre-COVID, we could get shotgun shell powder, no problem at all. It was no big deal. You order it, boom, 2 weeks, you have however many pounds you want. What happened was when the election went at the end of 19 and COVID hit, everyone started buying up all of the pistol and rifle powder. Shotgun powder was fine. Inventories were up, way up, no problem. As those orders started coming in to make more pistol rifle, the powder plants weren't making shot shell powder, which is why even trap loads, everything else are what they are. So it's big time government contracts. It's inventories being wiped out. We haven't even talked about the whole supply chain thing. One of the other weird things is these COVID tests. Those are the nasal ones that you put the home test kits. Those are made, the constituent that paper's on is made of nitrocellulose, which is one of the primary components in gunpowder. And there's a global shortage of nitrocellulose. So much that I read last week that there's a plant that is being built, and I think the government might be backing them to manufacture nitrocellulose for medical test strips. Weird, right? So yeah, it's more than I ever wanted to learn about supply chain shortages and where everything's going. But I mean, I hope you guys find value in it. I mean, it's not fun stuff to talk about.
No, but I think, the listeners, and I think they appreciate hearing this, and they know like what's going on, and just instead of walking into a store and being like, shelves are still empty, like it gives a little bit of a background. So so is it? I'm down conspiracy theory every now and again, but I mean, when we say we're making ammunition, when Federal says they're making it, and when all these people say they're making it, they just cannot produce it fast enough. And I don't know what Federal does or any of the other companies, but I know that we run like heck trying to get ahead of it. My kind of, one of my little Brandonisms is to say the two most important things are the next two things, right? I learned that flying instruments and bad weather airplanes. And I apply that to all aspects of my life. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard me say it, like, what are the two most important things? The next two things. So we're trying to get ahead of it. And all my guys that work with me know, like, behind you start operating behind the curve is when problems, start happening. Get ahead of these things. And that's what I've spent the last year doing. So people may not see me as much on the Facebook page or whatever. It's because I'm kind of behind the scenes, just trying to figure all this stuff out. Trying to keep it rolling. So what, there's powder. What are the other shortages? Is it like every component?
We ran tight on metal, but again, Scott, our CEO guy, that we threw him on that. That was his first kind of hazing to come in the boss crowd. I was like, hey man, set the table for you, figure out, make it happen. But at one point, we're now just getting powder. We got a load of powder that came in last week that should have been delivered like in July or August. Wow. So all of my orders in for 2021 in November of 2020. I had my orders in for 2022 in like August of 21. And I mean, we've done everything we can possible, like called in every favor you can. Like, what can we do? Let's agree to like different pricing structure. I'll sign a long-term agreement with you guys for exclusive with this or that. And, it's has helped out a lot. But even then, like, we try to say, we're loyal people. We want to support you. You guys have gone to bat for us. We want to be loyal to you. Like, help us out here. And again, we're still not able to produce what we're capable of producing. But then again, you get the hull issues. We are on allocation for 2022. Our hull manufacturer, the CEO of that company, is coming in to visit us next Tuesday. And we just need to hold their feet to the fire and say, you promised us X. We need to make sure that you guys deliver that. So what do we have to do? How's that look? So, yeah.
Well, I will say that Justin does a great job on the boss Facebook page. Yeah. He's always on there. And, if anyone has an issue, he's in there explaining it. And yeah. It's nice to have someone like that just always.
Oh yeah, he's
because I mean it doesn't take long for a fire to start burning, and people jump on it and he's on it. So that's always good to have.
Yeah, he's been hunting. He's been doing good. He just went out and him and two other guys shot 15 birds this morning on the river. Everything got cold here. It's 19 degrees and everything froze up, and they just slaughtered them in the hot spot here. So it's good. We had a miserable season up here. I mean, our ducks just showed up the end of December, right after Christmas. It finally got cold enough. I bought a property that's 226 acres of marshland, and we did all kinds of work out there this year, mainly just like draining the water off and letting Mother Nature take over, and all the smartweed and millet and nutsedge started popping up. And it's like a smorgasbord for all these ducks. And we had it all laid out perfect, and the birds never showed up. I mean, talk about my buddy Mike Clemens has worked basically a full-time job out there this year, just curating that property. And we're like, this is going to be awesome. We had a lot of cool new buddies of ours come out to our camp and hang out with us in our army tent, and the birds never showed up. And we're kind of like, did we just totally screw this whole thing up by planting all this food? Did the ducks want open water? Then you start questioning yourself. And then he sent me a video. It was December 27th. He's like, they're here. And man, they're just piling in. Every single hole that we made was just loaded with birds. So it was totally cool. Even though we couldn't kill them, just knowing that they're there, that they're resting, they're eating food, they're having fun. And that someone down south is going to get a crack at them, in time. So it was really cool, rewarding.
So
still.
Are you guys, is your season out for duck then?
Yeah, we were done. What was it? December 4th or 6th or whatever, that first weekend in December. And then the state of Michigan gave us 2 days, the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. There's always a 2-day, Saturday, Sunday between Christmas and New Year's, we always get to hunt. So I couldn't go. We had family in town. My sister came in, and my sister-in-law and my in-laws came, but I was able to get one of my buddies to slide my son out. So he got to go hunt that morning and they matched them. So I stayed home, got the family happy, and Lana got to go kill some birds. So
your boy's a slayer. Yeah, I know. I have it marked down. I wanted to ask about the Boss Swamp, because last time we spoke, I think it was just through text or something. You're like, yeah, man, when the birds are here, come on up. And because it's what, maybe 5 hours, and it's the same thing here.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the ducks to show up, and it
hunted every single weekend. And again, if it's Monday through Friday, I'm working. I don't leave the factory. I love my work. I love hunting, but I love my work more. And I like making shotgun shells. I like making hunters happy more than anything. So we hunt Saturday, Sunday. I pick my son up from school Friday afternoon. We shoot out to the farm, grab dinner, get the fire going, hang out, same thing. And it was just a miserable season. Our calendar migration for ducks was pretty much non-existent. But you need weather. We're at in Michigan, our ducks are more like honkers, where our birds don't wind up down in St. Louis. They don't wind up down in Southern Illinois. Our ducks act like geese, where they're only going to go as far as they absolutely have to. And there's things the state of Michigan needs to do to make it more realistic for waterfowlers. Michigan's one of the most popular states for waterfowling in number of licenses sold, and our harvest numbers suck. There's a lot of diehard people. East side of the state, there's a lot of birds that come through there. And where our property is, it's still on the west side of Michigan, more central in the state. And we do get birds that come from straight north in Canada, but they're only going to go as far as they have to. They got water, they got food, that's it. They're not making that long hop, which is something that, we're learning a lot, but that the state needs to really take a long, hard look at that and look at changing that for hunter success.
Yeah, I know. There was one, we had a couple good snows end of November, and we had a good push of birds, good push of ducks, and geese came down through. And then it was dead before that and pretty much dead after it until just maybe last week. And, you have guys shooting surf scoters on our local lakes. And I'm like, what is going on? They're shooting pintails and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, I don't know if they're coming down or going back or what. This weather's so messed up.
We had crazy good pintails this year. And even though when the birds showed up, we always had a few pintails that we know that nest and reproduce out at our place, but not as many as what we were seeing flying around. And everybody in Michigan had good pintails. It's just kind of a weird thing. 2 years ago, black ducks were the hot thing. Now it's pintails, which is great. It's just different the way that weather rolls. But
yeah, we've at least, I have a farm that's right behind my house, and there's like every year there's just about 2,000 geese that they winter there. They come in and they stay there. And I live in a pretty suburban area, and this is just a landowner that's just not given into a data center or a community yet, and he's got a big farm, and they hop from his farm to like the 2 or 3 fields just right behind my house. So I watched them just sort of trade around, and they were really late getting here, historically from when they typically do. They've just shown up really in earnest in the last probably 2 weeks down here. So
on the flip side, Lee was down in Stuttgart, I want to say the end of September. It was early October, is before Michigan opened up for our ducks, beginning or middle of October. And down in Stuttgart, they were loaded up with mallards, like black sky loaded. And what in the heck is going on? Well, for whatever reason, those birds got there a month early. So you have birds that are way early, some that are way late. And what's kind of cool is like we've gotten to be pretty solid with the people at Delta, Waterfowl, and DU. And with that being one of our primary source of advertising, we get a lot of time to talk to some of the higher ups there at that organization, and the things they're doing, like with these GPS collars, and it's fascinating to see that they really do care about what they're doing, and they're gathering all kinds of crazy data. There was one duck that I thought was making a west to east migration, and I thought that he was at our property because the GPS showed on a map like right where our hunt camp is. So I called the guy up at Delta. I'm like, hey, how far away was this from our parcels? Like 15 miles, not close. But he's like, it was there for 90 minutes. And then it went from here to here to here. So they're tracking all kinds of information, which I think it's great. So like all the guys that are listening, I mean, you really got to get behind those guys. It's not just a logo or a book that they send out in the mail. I mean, these guys are diehard, and it's going to be up to the private sector to ensure that, there's still going to be waterfowl for all of us to hunt. And those organizations, granted, they do make money, but it's on the backs of those guys and some really, really, really rich guys down in St. Louis and other parts of the country that are creating a habitat for these birds. And one of the things, we partnered with them on a couple of programs, and I said, if Boss is going to support this, you'll hear about it rolling out with these nesting boxes that we're kind of coming out with over the next 3 years, or tubes. And they're going to put them on hunting ground. I said, I will not give one nickel to that program unless it's all on public land. And even though I know full well that, the private sector is truly what keeps conservation for waterfowl moving forward, we just don't want that stereotype attached to like, oh yeah, Boss is supporting this program on private property, this, that, the other. So I kind of just jumped off the rails a little bit, but conservation's huge for us. I mean, it's been something that Lee and I have breathed and slept and lived and bled ever since we started this company. And it's starting to catch on, and people are starting to really think differently about it, I believe.
Yeah. And when we had Lee on the first time, that's what he was talking about, the amount of wounded birds that, died and never recovered and all that. And
what's cool is we can work like the guys at Delta and DU, they know that that's where our heart's at. So we can really, like, even though it's just advertising dollars, like we know that that's money being well invested for all these programs. And it's kind of a fun thing to kind of like feed off of each other. And, one of those organizations, we just did a long-term deal with them, and they said, this is the largest contract that's ever been written in our organization history. We're like, with us, Boss, like our little group out of Michigan, really? But it just goes to show, like, that's how strongly we feel about what we're doing. So it's
that's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome about the public land too. Sorry, Josh.
I'll get in the conversation at some point here. Yeah.
I was just thinking, because like we had an issue. I'm on the Delta here locally, and we had issues getting, nesting boxes and stuff at our local lake just because, the game commission didn't want to deal with it. It's like, man, like we're out here trying to do this, and they had a ton of, rolls, mallard rolls and stuff. And we're like, we'll put them all up. And they just wouldn't even open the doors for us. It's like,
yeah,
sweet. In the Atlantic Flyway, where we're down to 2 mallards and, we're trying to help. And this is what we get. Now there's a new guy in there now that's better. So
those nesting tubes work. I put 50 of them out on my property, and the guys from Delta thought I was nuts because I put so many of them out, because I think they only want 2 every 50 acres or something. And our habitat's not great for nesting. I could go on for hours about what's wrong with it, but we had 2 out of 50, which is 4% take the first year, 3 out of 50. So 6% of them yielded clutches of ducks. I mean, it's better than nothing, right? And especially in a terrible habitat that's full of invasive grass that ducks don't want to be living in, it produced mallards. So you take that in the prairie pothole region or areas on Atlantic Flyway. I mean, that's big time. That's big time right there. The numbers get big really quick. Even if you have, high single digit, low double digit successes, I mean, that's huge.
I mean, a lot of that comes down to almost like, if you've got a sales background, it's like, all right, it takes this many tubes to get this much success. Like, it's just a numbers game. You just, you got to have that force multiplier to exponentially grow it. So it's interesting to hear that the game commission was not really interested in playing ball there for a while, Dan. That's unfortunate. But I was just going to say, I think that the radio GPS tracking of ducks is really cool, particularly when you see birds coming out of the same area, taking different migratory paths south. And then also I find interesting the variation in the path back north, and some of them, how some of them veer so far off from like, the main. It's, and we all know it, right? Shoot a banded bird, and it's like, wow, this thing must have been lost. Like, it seems like, why would it end up here? Like, I remember, this is several years ago now, but we were hunting up in Pennsylvania, and Dan shot a wood duck that I believe had been banded in like Michigan, like 3 days before that we killed it or something like that. Right. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like 3 days after you just got banded? Like, what, like, it's just, it's just crazy. So it's interesting to just see the data, as to how they move, and, they can better understand what impacts that movement and all that kind of stuff. So, it's groups like Delta and DU and stuff that do that kind of work.
It's so cool to see that there's birds that are banded in one location. There's a guy that goes around, he's got like a Spider-Man. I don't know his name. He's got like this Spider-Man net gun where he walks around parks downtown Chicago and like shoots a net and like gets these geese and puts the collar on them. And thing ends up migrating way up north into Canada, and they can track it obviously with GPS. And this guy saw this bird come back. It flew over 1,000 miles in 2 days. And within 10 minutes of it hitting that geo fence, hey, I'm back in the area, it was on its nest that the guy banded it that spring or whenever it was. Yeah, that spring. So how can they go 1,000 miles away and come back to that very same spot, without an iPhone or a map? It's just crazy. It's crazy.
It's incredible.
That so one, cool. The band we got in Ohio this year, that I actually put Dawson's name on it because it was the first hunt he was on where we got a band. That thing was 850 miles away from where it got banded.
Yeah.
That's always cool.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What kind of bird was it that was near your property that had the tracker on it?
It was just a mallard.
Mallard.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I know they did some specifically, I think, on ringnecks, if I recall. And I remember one, I thought one was interesting because it was coming back north, and it went up like Eastern Ohio area. And so I kind of thought that was interesting, just growing up in Western PA, obviously that it was going back up through that route. But I mean, it's just interesting to see all that. And that's honestly, for me, when I got into duck hunting, that was one of the biggest appeals. Like I just thought the nuance of ducks and their behavior was just so cool. Like I just thought that was neat.
There's here that travels 5 miles in its life or in a 5-mile radius, right? Like, no, why don't you go chase after something that can fly and lives throughout 3 continents? Then you're talking about.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because Penn State University has done a lot of whitetail deer research and things, and they'll track deer in game lands and things like that in Pennsylvania. And there was one particular buck that they had aged, and it was a mature buck, like 4 or 5 years old, and it was living on public ground, but it never traveled more than like, I can't remember how big the window was, but it was very small, and it was like really close to the road. Like it was just the most odd thing that you'd ever think, but it was just completely okay with just hunkering down and having human foot traffic around it, but they never like stepped on it essentially. And I think that it was like I think they went and looked at the area, and it was like a steep, sort of like a ridge going up to a road. So just not it was near road, near traffic, but like they were never walking like right in the bedroom, so to speak. And he just got smart enough to be like, well, I'm good here. And I think he finally got killed, after several years of that sort of behavior. But his movement pattern during hunting season specifically was so small that like during the summer he would go just a little bit further, but it was never very far from that, just that little core area, which is wild.
Bucks and rudd are cool, but nowhere near as cool as ducks. And ducks are where it's at for sure.
Yeah, that's always a cool thing, I think. But I wanted to pivot a little bit here, and I wanted to, as we were talking before about shells and things, and I know over the years, just kind of like text messaging with you guys and just sort of seeing some of the R&D work that you guys are doing at the shop and like working through things and going to the copper plated and all of that sort of thing. I'm curious to get your thoughts on how are like the shortages and the issues that we're dealing with, and just the sheer time that it takes you guys to be able to like get everything to just meet the demand. How is that impacting, you and the industry's sort of ability to look forward and sort of like try to grow new technologies and be forward leaning, and how to, press the envelope to continue to build better performing loads and things like that?
Right. Well, like the pessimist in me would always say, like, why would you use a time when there's massive shortages to launch a new product? Right. Like that could be perceived as like a contrived maneuver. Let's create a shortage and all of a sudden come out with 3 new products to try to spur demand. And like I said, the 2 most important things are the next 2 things, right? So there are things that I've been working on that we've rolled out. And one of them that kind of like was a new product last year was Stinger. And Stinger was, just as much as it was born out of the need to fill a niche in the market, it really kind of became like a front runner with the shortages that we had for powder. So I wanted to we got these guys up in upstate New York that are at a hunt club that still want to shoot their 12 gauge over and unders and side by sides, but are in their 70s. They don't want the recoils. They wanted this really soft shooting shell. And I wanted my son to shoot 12 gauge. He shoots a Benelli now, an old M1 that's been cut down for him. And I wanted this short shell or low recoil shell. So couple that with us all shooting sub gauge at our duck property because we got birds that roost and want to keep the noise down. I wanted it nice and quiet. So when we couldn't get our main powder, our powder company said, hey, we've got X amount of this powder. And it's like a super hot powder that you really can't do much with for hunting. I said, you know what? I'll take it all. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it. So I got this truckload of powder that came in. I started playing with it and I developed Stinger. It was light. It was low recoil, pattern like crazy. And we tested it out last year, spring snow season. My son shot it and loved it. We sent it all over the country for spring snows. And some guys shoot honkers in the spring. They loved it. So that's one of those things that kind of like was an accidental new product that created true value. But again, like now's not the time to sit on your hands. Like there's, just for example, in Ducks Unlimited, we've got a spot that we have a guaranteed buy right in front of the mixed bag section, right? That's always going to be our spot. When General Motors bailed last year when COVID hit, we took over that cover 2 page 1 slot. So GM bounced out again for the spring issue. Our people from DU called and said, hey, do you want to move from page 8 and 9 over to cover 2 page 1? And I said, well, hell no, I don't want to do that. I'll buy both ads. So where I'm getting at with this is when you've got like economic conditions, shortages, global pandemics, this and that, a lot of people are just running for a safe spot, right? We double down and we are not stopping. So there is new stuff coming out. We've got components. We've just got to have the time that we can put all this stuff together. But there's some new products you're going to be seeing coming out here this summer. One of them is a no plastic wad. We're taking plastic out of the environment. That's starting to gain some traction out in California. Say what you will about California, but they're wanting to do away with that. We see tremendous value in getting that out of the environment. And I've been able to develop a load that's patterning wicked good, just as good as a load with a plastic wad. And we can do it without the wad pedals because our shot's soft and it's still non-toxic and it doesn't scrape the barrel. And that's why you don't need that plastic protection. Where other companies are trying to come up with plastic wads that biodegrade. I've seen some stuff in Europe that's a cardboard wad pedal, a bunch of other things. But like that's going to be another niche product that's going to grow. But it's one of those things you just got to keep pressing on.
Staying ahead of the curve. That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I tell you what, those stingers are nice. I smashed a couple geese the other day with them. There's no doubt about the performance.
One of the guys we had up with us is a close friend of mine who's a Special Forces guy, United States Army, 5th Special Forces Group. Great dude. Spent a lot of time, 2001 up through current, still operating, in theater. And awesome patriot, awesome guy. And I've seen what he can do with those stingers, and it is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Duck hunt was slow. We went to a pheasant farm. They plant them out there before you take the dogs, go up, shoot them. This guy dumped a pheasant at 80 yards with a Stinger 5. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude. I know what I'm doing. I'm like, that's a lucky. Then I saw him like 5 yards with the duck going away and just raked it. I'm like, this guy knows what's up. The United States did a good job teaching him how to operate a gun. Tell you that.
So that was another question. I have friends and they'll ask what I use for, pheasant hunting, which I don't pheasant hunt very much, but I'm like, I use Boss. And, you had a nice picture with the governor of South Dakota with the Boss hat on, doing the pheasant hunting, which that was super cool. But are you seeing a lot of upland hunters moving over to Boss?
And to compound, and again, I'm one of the most competitive, business loving, hardworking dudes you guys are ever going to meet. And a business can come, how do I put this the right way? You can grow too fast. Okay. And what we've tried to be cognizant of is we're never going to get away from what initially resonated with our audience. And we haven't. But what's happened is the brand's grown faster than what we can produce. We can't answer the call of the market because I can't get all the components I need. I've got all the machinery. Lord knows I have all the machinery to load everything that we need. I do not have the components. And what we were going to do is start to dabble in the upland market once we started seeing where the limits were for Boss and waterfowl, because we're duck hunters and goose hunters first. And we love our pheasants, but we're gonna own our backyard first. And what's happened, whether it's through states that ban lead shot on state land, or guys that want to go out and do a combo hunt and shoot sloughs for ducks and kick up pheasants, they have to have non-toxic. So we've been trying to pump the brake pedal on the upland play, and we're kind of being drug into it. And I hate to say it, when Christy Noem wants us to be a part of her Second Century Habitat Foundation and all the initiatives that she's doing. Like, not to be political, like, let's take politics out of it. She cares about conservation and she cares about pheasant hunting in South Dakota. And she wants us to be a part of what she's doing. So Lee went out there, got to meet her during the Buffalo Roundup that she did some killer photography with her, went back again for the governor's hunt that you saw the Instagram photos of. And I mean, she's a great lady. I haven't met her personally yet, but anyone who is conservation focused as her and a leadership role like she is with her platform as governor of South Dakota, hats off to her. She's a great woman.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm just going to break a little news here, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm going to break a little news here. I'm surfing the Boss website right now. 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch number 5s, which I've been shooting for the last couple of years. Case in stock right now.
They were just made today.
It's there. You can get it.
All right. Good.
It's there. That's exciting. So
yeah, we're
on it, people.
We're not hoarding behind, and I will say we always do keep a couple cases of each SKU on hand for guys that are in a true emergency situation or guys that come in, to the shop in person. And I'm kind of like a little soft when it comes like not saying no. And that's why I'm not allowed to be on the phones anymore, because the girls give me all kinds of help because I promise all kinds of stuff and production gets off at me. So they say you have to stay off the phones. So I oblige, but that's listening. They're going to be mad at me. But if there's ever like a really dire thing that you need, we're always there to accommodate those requests. And we try our best to make everybody happy. And what people say, Brandon said so, that's kind of what I tell them on Messenger. Just tell Lisa Brandon says so. And that's like the password.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that.
Well,
everyone's going to be messaging.
This is what I'll say about that.
Podcast is what Lisa's going to hear.
Well, this is what I'll say about that. One of the things that folks that are in our Facebook group and that kind of stuff on social media really appreciate about many of the companies that we work with, and bosses included in that, is that they have the ability to reach out and have a conversation with someone like you or whatever, name your company, but it's that personalized discussion that you're talking about. It's like, hey, I'm in a bad spot. Like, for whatever the thing is, like I'm trying to get something, I'm going on a hunt of a lifetime. I'm taking my dad hunting or whatever. And we fell asleep at the wheel or whatever, right? We don't got what we need. They can reach out and call you. And maybe the answer is no, there's just nothing they can do, but maybe it isn't. Right. And, good luck with a lot of these big companies, trying to get to someone that's going to have any kind of empathy, for your situation.
Right. Well, flip side of the coin too, we kind of make ourselves available, and it's not because we want people blowing sunshine up or what. I mean, we just want to do our job, but you still have those people that because we answer the phone or because we're accessible online, they just take things way too far and just, they want to be crabby or get all honked off. It's like, there's probably only 2 or 3 days a year that I'm like, you know what? This is too much. But I just kind of pull myself up by the bootstraps and just keep pressing forward. But I tell you what, like 99.999% positive feedback. All it takes is that one pissed off guy that just doesn't want to be cool with you. And it like, why are we doing this? Yeah. And I don't want guy. So that's a tough one. And, I don't think people would call and chew out Federal or Winchester or Remington like they would do us, because they're big and they know that someone's going to answer the phone, and whoever they're talking to is within eyesight of where stuff's being made. But again, I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just, it gets to be a bit much at times when it seems like people don't want to be happy. And that's what we do every day, is just work our butts off trying to make everybody happy.
No,
well, hopefully there's less of those calls and more of the good ones, but
there's more of them than there were last year, but we've got a lot more new customers than we did in previous years. And at the same time, you get the guys that's one person has a problem with the shell going off or whatever. And then the group of your faithful customers that have been buying from you and supporting the brand since day one want to pile on this guy. So then you got to play like babysitter, like, guys, let's chill out. Let's be nice. That whole bit, but social media, what are you going to do? Right.
Yeah, we know all about that. It is a Wolfpack mentality though. Like the brand loyalty is a real thing. It definitely is.
Yeah. And it's a fragile thing too. I mean, it's a relationship, just like we've got friendships, right? Like you have to maintain and work to maintain those relationships. And that comes in the way of, like, with our product, on-time delivery, order accuracy, product performance, quality, price, value, innovation, conservation. All those things are like the checklist that we're always running, start to finish every single day. So to a lot of guys, just, a shotgun shell, but to me, I'm taking a chunk of someone's paycheck, right? And people, say at the shop, Brandon gets crabby. Brandon gets crabby when his customers are upset when they get the wrong stuff, even though it happens very, very infrequently, or when, the order got mixed up, or the product was late, showing up, or someone told them one thing and they can't get this or that. Like, I'm the consumer advocate at Boss. And the only time I get mad is when my customers chew my ass. And it doesn't happen that often, but when it does, and it's for valid reasons, I have to get to work. And I don't like, so everybody knows that there's that mutual level of respect that everyone has. Like, this isn't like a $2 trinket. We're taking a lot of someone's money. They put a lot of trust in us. And even then, like, in season orders, like, I become like super rigid about when this country is open and ducks are being killed. We need to make sure those orders ship same day. We need to make sure the order's accurate. We need to make sure they're getting exactly what they want. People are going on trips. We're sending it to hotels. We're sending it to wherever, lodges or whatever you name it. It's got to be there. They're counting on us. And there is no margin for error there. And, that's just what it is. I'm not going to come off that either. So sometimes
I love that.
Inside the plant. But everybody knows deep down at the end of the day, I'm looking out for our customer. If I'm caring about the customer, I care about the business and everyone that works for it. So it's really simple. It's really simple.
That's awesome. So, I don't know if you want to talk about the new building and what you guys got going on there.
Oh, yeah. We bought a building.
Taking up all your time.
No. But and this will be something that probably, like, we were operating in basically a pole barn, like a 40 by 60 pole barn for the loading and order customer service, right? Last year, I bought a building around the corner from our shop. It's really close to where 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes from our main building. And it's like a 45-year-old building that we got for a really good deal. And I said, I'm going to play general contractor and turn this thing into our new workshop. Production's under control. Things are going good. Well, then we got busy, and then we got busier and busier. So we hadn't had time to work on it that much, but now I'm back on it. Tyler, who runs our production, has been doing a phenomenal job under my wing. He's been working with us for years. He oversees all the product quality, all the testing, validation, setups, changeovers. That's all Tyler's thing. So I can be away from the plant, and we're working on getting this new building outfitted, and it is going to be cool. We're building the showroom area is about, the 4,000 square feet between our offices and like showroom area. We're going to encourage dudes to show up and hang out at the place. It's going to be cool. Like, it's going to be awesome. I'll get you some pictures when it gets really rolling, but that should be ready to go. I want to have all of our customer service people in there by the end of March. So all the phone calls, all the shipping is going to go out of there. And then hopefully by early summer, all the production will be in the new facility as well.
From the pictures you sent me, it definitely looks like it's going to have a Boss feel to it.
Well, I mean, it's a Boss feel because, it's like, it's the Boss guys building it. Like, I've got everybody at Boss is having a part in how this building goes together. And a lot of my close friends that are customers of ours are tradesmen, like my electrician. I said, hey, dude, I'm not creative when it comes to lighting. You're responsible for the lighting. Our guy Dirk is picking the colors. Ricardo and I, who build all of our tooling and stuff at UltraSeal and for Boss, we're doing all the heavy fab work on shipping container. It's a shipping container vibe. It's just going to be all cool because it's us. I mean, it's us. And what better way to have a factory built for guys who want cool stuff, like we're doing it on our own. So I want it to be a place that customers can come in and hang out. I want all of our employees to feel like it's just a really cool spot to be in. And then have a lot of fun making shotgun shells. So yeah.
So I mean, just from talking to you all the time, I know you love your job. Do you ever take a minute and just take a minute to like look back over the last few years and you're like, this is awesome?
You know, I guess like people, you probably have heard guys talk about like, oh, you never work a day in your life if you really love what you're doing. And, you know, to be honest, I've been that way my entire life. Before I started Boss, I was in on, you know, the metal finishing for other startups I did. And my main family business, which is Ultra Seal. That's, you know, the second grade, my teacher, Miss Helmrich, was asking us, this would have been like what, 1988 or so. What do you guys want to be when you grow up? Draw the picture, right? And you got the girls that are drawing puppy dogs, want to be veterinarians or nurses. You got the guys who want to be doctors, lawyers back then. It was doctors, firefighters, or police officers. And I'm like drawing a picture of my dad wearing like his black shop lab coat. And I'm like, I want to go to work with my dad. So I knew from the time I was 6 years old what my calling was. So that goes back, right? So I'm just a worker. Like I really, really am a worker. I feel tremendously guilty if I'm hunting during the week, it's a major problem for my mind. Like I can't function. But yeah, the last 4 years, it's been a lot of stress. I'll tell you what, like, I think just within the last month, I can go a whole week without sweating my sheets at night in bed. There for a while when I had the banks, you know, locking everything I owned up, my wife was doing the sheets pretty much every single night. But again, I didn't feel stressed during the day. I'm having fun, right? But all this anxiety must be coming out while I'm sleeping. And I mean, it's come with a lot of sacrifices. I didn't get to spend as much time with my wife and kids, even though I'm at home. If I'm on the phone, this is like a message to like everybody out here. I hate to go on these tangents, but Christmas Eve, I had this epiphany. I got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old at home. And I started Boss, 2018, so almost 4 years ago. And all your pictures come up, previous Christmases, you know, when they're little babies. And I look at it, and I'm like, I'm over halfway from the time my kids were born until they're going to be gone from my home forever. I'm over halfway. I am not going to spend the last third or whatever that time is while they're in my home full time being home, but not present. And that's where like, you kind of have to draw that line in the sand, like work-life balance. And I don't care if it's just working a normal job. Like it's not cool to your kids to come home from work, eat dinner, and then watch TV or screw around on your phone or whatever. Like, so I'm like, not New Year's resolution. Like I put that down. Like we're on tonight. This is a work thing. This is an exception. When I'm at work, I'm working. When I'm at home, I'm dad. And that's what I think all of us probably like as parents, and especially guys with young kids, like you can't get those times back. And it's not worth any business success or anything else if you don't have those kids that, you know, you're in the eyes of your child, like mom and dad, like they're the center of the universe. And to be on your phone while kids are talking to you and you just ignore them, like we're all guilty of it. I was terrible at it and I'm not doing that anymore. So that's like the only negative thing, but I've been that way my whole life. But again, Boss, like, did we ever think it's doing what it's doing? Could it ever be possible? No, but we're not looking for success. We're just having fun and the brand is growing and we get to have more fun and we get to have newer buildings. We get to have new presses and all that, but it's fun because our heart's in it. So, and we're not looking at the, you know, the payout, this and that. Like I have an accountant and a CEO now that take care of the bank loans and the money and all that stuff. We're just satisfying the market demand. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's,
what do you say about that?
Yeah,
There's not much more to, that's a good way to end it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's man. And it's like, I don't want to be that guy. And some of my buddies I said it to, I'm going to be 40 this year. And the dudes I was talking to are in like 32, the younger guys, they got little babies now. It's like, it's always the advice from the old guy, right? And you can't relate. When I'm 25 years old, 30 years old with little kids, I can't relate to a 65-year-old guy saying they grow up so fast. And that's where I told my buddies, I'm like, dude, I'm only a couple of years older than you. Do not make the mistake that I made. So hopefully it resonates with some of these younger guys. Like, and I'm not saying my kids don't go without, but I wish I could have those days back when they were little kids, But anyway.
It's funny you mentioned that. When my son was born, my son's 10 now. When he was born, all I could think about and all I could talk about was, I can't wait till he gets old enough to be able to do this and do that and go hunt and do these things. And now my daughter, who just turned 3 in December, all I can say is stop growing, slow down, hit pause. Like, cause I wanted to fast forward through my first one, cause I just thought it would be better when he was old enough to do stuff. And now I look back and I'm like, I blinked and I missed like all that part. So with my daughter, I'm like, slow down.
Industry, Ramsey Russell. Everyone knows Ramsey Russell. We were going to go on a hunting trip in Ottawa in 2021. COVID shut all that down. And he said, we got to get our boys together. Forrest, his son, is in his 20s. And Ramsey's got to be late 50s now, mid 50s. Yeah, probably 50s. And he's like, Brandon, we got to get these boys together and get them on a hunt. I said, all right. He goes, you know how you spell love in a kid's eyes? I said, how is that? He says, Time. Mm-hmm. And then, that was only a year and a half ago. It didn't resonate with me because the generational gap I have with Ramsey. Yeah, Ramsey. Okay. Yeah, I get it. I'm telling you, like, I don't know what your audience age is, but anybody with 20, in their 20s or 30s, young little kids, listen to me. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we got a lot of guys.
I think we have that on our Instagram multiple times. He said that. I think he might have been in Australia when he said that when we had him on. But that's that one. That one hit hard a couple years ago when he said that, and I'm just like, you know what, you're right. And even tonight, like, I was doing some stuff with work, and my daughter came up to me and she's like, Dad, can I have a hug? And I'm like, yeah. And I put one arm around her and my phone in the other hand. I was like, what am I doing? Just squeeze and try and crack her back. I was squeezing her so hard. It's like, man.
That if you start looking at it like time to do stuff with your kids on a whim. Kids are in school from September until June, at least here in Michigan. You have your spring sports, your winter sports, depending on whatever you got. So you have, like, in the eyes of school, you've got like the summers to go on a vacation. Okay. And that's when everybody's on vacation. After COVID and dealing with what's gone on in schools, the schools can really take a secondary role in my children's growth and development. And if it's March and I want to take my kids on a vacation because that's when everything aligns for us, the school can take a hike. So, and I was always raised like respect for your school, authority, this, that, the other, and I still do, but like, man, school is not going to control my kid's life and the trajectory of our family. So, but again, that's kind of like another revelation I had with COVID and a lot of time to think, when I'm not making shotgun shells. So anyway. So
yeah, no doubt. It's easy to get lose perspective.
Guys are probably getting bored listening to this right now. So maybe we should wind it down.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed having you on, man. It was good to catch up. It's good to hear that you guys are still rocking and rolling and overcoming a lot of the challenges that are coming your way. And, certainly it's unfortunate to hear that, 2022 is probably not going to ease up on that front, but hopefully, hopefully in 22 we can get to some light at the end. We can start to see some light maybe at some point in 22.
The minute this stuff calms down, I'll be fine with it. Like, no one really likes grinding as hard as we do. I do. But I don't want to wear out the rest of my team. But for the guys that want to get ahead of it, the boys, Zach and Lee, are down at Dallas Safari now, and they come back, quick turn to go to NWTF. I got to finish this building. And then we're going to do pre-orders. So guys that want to, order their shells, they're going to get them. We'll give those delivery dates, but it's going to be probably late spring, early summer when we can start finally delivering or getting all those caught up. Basically what we're going to do, we're going to look at what our guaranteed commitments are on all of our hulls. We're going to look at what powder we've got. We know our metal's good. And then we're going to allow guys to buy off of that. So it's not like we're going to take someone's money and then be like, oh, I hope we get everything we need. It's all going to come from stuff that is in the system, just isn't here yet. And we did that last year, and it was an awesome success. And we're going to do it again this year. Probably open that pre-order book up for probably the month of second half of January, and then all of February, then close that up, and then hopefully start rolling into normal production. We don't want to leave it hanging. Everyone will, and I always said, everyone who got that email who wanted to get shotgun shells did not get what they needed after having read that email, right? Everybody's going to get what they need. Just don't wait. I hate, and I feel like a used car salesman, but I'm just speaking the honest truth, man. Don't put it off.
Yep. Yeah. No, we saw what happens when you put it off and people get mad, but you're giving them warnings.
Yeah. And like, we're just selling cases, right? Well, why can't I only need a box of shotgun shells? I wish we could give a box of shotgun shells and just process that order for you. But I've only got so many people working in order fulfillment, and I can't break down cases, because that's what we do. We break down the case, we put them in boxes, even though it seems like a mundane little task. With the order volume being what it is, I mean, we don't have the resources to do it. I can't hire people fast enough. It just is. It's reality. I mean, we're all in the same boat. So just be patient with us and stock up, give them to a buddy, split a case, do whatever you got to do. Not going to go to waste.
Yeah. I hear that
for sure.
Well, man, it was great to catch up. Appreciate you giving us some time here this evening.
Yeah.
And we're still gonna hunt here for a few more weeks, so we'll send you all our kill pics and stuff and all that, and then I guess we'll shift to turkeys here before too long. But anyway, Brandon, man, it was good catching up with you. Appreciate everything you do, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, we'll chat soon.
That's going to do it for this episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. If you're new to the show, head over to iTunes, check out some of our past episodes, and while you're there, leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's the best way for like-minded hunters just like you to find our show. Check us out on social media, check us out over at hpoutdoors.com, and anywhere you can find quality podcast content. That's going to do it for this week. Till next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.